Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's political empire began crumbling at exactly 10:47 a.m. on that fateful Tuesday morning when she uttered a single word that would haunt her career forever. The packed House Energy Committee chamber buzzed with anticipation as cameras rolled and reporters leaned forward in their seat, sensing that something explosive was about to unfold. What they witnessed would become one of the most devastating political reversals in congressional history. Tell us in the comments. Are you watching from your office during a work break, at home while following political news, or maybe on your phone while thinking about your own learning experiences? We want to know where our viewers are tuning in from around the country as we dive into this incredible story of growth, humility, and becoming a better leader through failure. The 34-year-old Congresswoman from New York sat at the curved committee desk, her signature red blazer immaculate, her dark hair pulled back in a style that had become iconic among her millions of social media followers. Her fingers drummed against a stack of prepared notes, each page carefully researched by her team of progressive activists turned policy advisors. Alexandria had built her reputation on these moments, the fierce confrontations that would later become viral clips shared thousands of times across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Across the chamber, Energy Secretary John Kennedy maintained his characteristic calm. At 68, the former Louisiana senator possessed the kind of unshakable composure that came from 5 decades in politics and law. His gray suit was perfectly pressed, his tie a conservative navy blue that matched his rimless glasses. On the table before him sat 3 manila folders, organized with military precision. Those who knew Kennedy recognized the sign. He wasn't just prepared for this hearing, he was ready for war. The morning had begun routinely enough. Committee Chairman Richard Morrison gavelled the session to order at precisely 10:30 a.m., his voice echoing through the wood-paneled chamber. Today we examine the Department of Energy's renewable initiatives and their impact on American energy independence, he announced to the packed gallery of lobbyists, journalists, and congressional staffers. Alexandria's opportunity came during the second round of questioning. She had watched patiently as her more senior colleagues lobbed softball inquiries at Kennedy, each receiving measured diplomatic responses that revealed nothing of substance. The secretary's decades of experience showed in every calculated pause, every carefully chosen word. But Alexandria hadn't climbed from bartender in the Bronx to the halls of Congress by accepting diplomatic non-answers. She leaned into her microphone, her voice carrying the authority that had made her a progressive icon. Secretary Kennedy, I want to discuss the significant changes in federal energy policy since you assumed office. Kennedy nodded slightly, his expression neutral. I'm happy to discuss our comprehensive energy strategy, Congresswoman. According to Department of Energy data, Alexandria continued, consulting her notes, federal funding for renewable energy projects has decreased by 31% since your confirmation. During this same period, permits for oil and gas drilling on federal lands increased by 127%. Can you explain this apparent contradiction to your stated commitment to clean energy? The question was sharp, well-researched, and delivered with the kind of prosecutorial precision that had made Alexandria famous. Murmurs rippled through the gallery as reporters scribbled notes. This was exactly the kind of confrontation they had come to witness. Kennedy adjusted his glasses, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Congresswoman, energy policy requires balancing multiple priorities. We've maintained robust support for renewable technologies while ensuring America's energy security through domestic production. But Alexandria wasn't satisfied with bureaucratic talking points. She could sense the cameras focusing on her, could imagine the clips already being edited by her social media team. This was her moment to strike. Mr. Secretary, let's discuss specifics. The American Climate Alliance published a comprehensive report last month documenting 47 oil drilling projects approved under your watch. Of these 47 projects, 31 failed to meet basic environmental impact standards according to the EPA's own assessment, yet they were approved anyway. How do you justify this? The chamber grew quieter. This wasn't standard committee theater. Alexandria was building towards something bigger. Kennedy's expression remained unchanged, but his fingers tapped once against his folder. Congresswoman, each project undergoes thorough review through established regulatory processes. We follow all applicable environmental guidelines. Alexandria felt the momentum building. Her staff had prepared her well for this moment, armed with statistics, reports, and talking points designed to corner the secretary. She stood slowly, her red blazer creating a striking contrast against the chamber's muted tone. Secretary Kennedy, with respect, that's simply not accurate. The Environmental Protection Agency's internal memos, obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, show repeated concerns about projects approved by your department. Project Clearwater in Montana, the Bakken Extension in North Dakota, the Gulf Coast Pipeline expansion, all approved despite EPA objections. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. The gallery was completely silent now, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. More troubling, Alexandria continued, her voice rising with conviction, is the pattern of political donations that seem to correlate with these approvals. The American Energy PAC, which received $2.3 million from the companies behind these projects, donated $340,000 to committees supporting your confirmation. The timing is remarkable. Wouldn't you agree? Kennedy's composure never wavered, but something shifted in his eye. A glint of recognition, perhaps even amusement, as if he had been waiting for exactly this attack. Congresswoman, all political donations are properly disclosed and comply with federal election law. I have no direct involvement in PAC activity. The response was technically correct, but felt evasive. Alexandria sensed blood in the water. This was the moment her supporters expected, the confrontation that would generate headlines and fuel fundraising email. She took a deep breath and prepared to deliver the blow that would define this hearing. Secretary Kennedy, she said, her voice now carrying the full weight of moral indignation, the American people deserve better than corporate-funded energy policy that prioritizes profits over our planet's future. She paused, scanning the chamber, making eye contact with the cameras that would carry her words to millions of viewers. Your tenure as Energy Secretary has been marked by systematic favoritism toward fossil fuel interests at the expense of renewable energy development. You have consistently prioritized short-term corporate profits over long-term environmental sustainability. In my view, this represents a fundamental corruption of your office's mission. The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Corruption. Alexandria had crossed from policy criticism into personal attack, from questioning decisions to questioning character. The gallery erupted in whispers as reporters frantically typed on their phones, already crafting headlines for the explosive accusation. But it was Kennedy's reaction, or lack thereof, that truly captured attention. He didn't flinch, didn't protest, didn't even blink. Instead, he sat perfectly still, his hands folded calmly on the table, watching Alexandria with the patience of a chess master who had just watched his opponent make a critical error. Chairman Morrison attempted to restore order, his gavel echoing through the chamber. The Congresswoman's time has expired. Secretary Kennedy, would you like to respond to these allegations? Kennedy remained seated for a long moment, his silence more powerful than any immediate rebuttal. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the same measured tone he had maintained throughout the hearing. Mr. Chairman, these are serious allegations that deserve a serious response. With your permission, I would like to address them comprehensively. Morrison nodded. The secretary is recognized. Kennedy reached for the middle folder on his desk, opening it with deliberate care. The chamber watched in fascination as he removed a single sheet of paper, official letterhead visible even from the gallery seat. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Kennedy began, his Louisiana accent lending gravity to each word. You have accused me of corruption. That's a weighty charge, one that strikes at the heart of public service and democratic governance. He held up the document, not dramatically, but with the quiet authority of someone revealing an important truth. This morning, before this hearing began, my office received an interesting communication. It's an email forwarded by a concerned citizen who felt the committee should be aware of its content. Alexandria's confident expression flickered. Something in Kennedy's tone, his methodical preparation, suggested this wasn't going to be the defensive response she had anticipated. Kennedy continued, his voice never rising, but somehow filling the chamber completely. The email is dated October 23rd. That's 8 days ago, and it originates from an address registered to your Congressional office's communications director, Ms. Sarah Chin. The name hit Alexandra like a physical blow. Sarah Chin was her closest advisor, the architect of her social media strategy, the person she trusted most with her political messaging. If Sarah had sent an email that Kennedy was now prepared to discuss publicly, the implication implications were devastating. The email, Kennedy continued, is addressed to James Morrison of the Progressive Strategy Group, not to be confused with our esteemed chairman, and it outlines a comprehensive plan to, and I quote, neutralize Kennedy's credibility through sustained attack on his energy policy decisions. Alexandria felt the blood draining from her face. She tried to maintain her composure, but the precise way Kennedy was delivering this information suggested he had much more than a single email. But that's just the beginning, Kennedy said, turning the page. The email goes on to detail specific tactics. Focus on the appearance of impropriety rather than actual wrongdoing. Correlation between donations and approvals doesn't require proof of causation. The suggestion is enough for media coverage. The chamber was dead silent now. Even the usually restless reporters had stopped typing, transfixed by the methodical destruction of Alexandria's credibility unfolding before their eyes. Kennedy's voice remained perfectly level as he delivered the killing blow. And then, Congresswoman, we come to the most revealing part of this communication. Your communications director writes, AOC needs to use the word corruption in her questioning. Doesn't matter if we can prove it. The accusation itself will dominate news cycles and reinforce her brand as a truth-teller willing to confront power. The words hit the chamber like a physical force. Alexandria felt her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. The accusation she had just made, her moment of moral authority, had been premeditated, calculated, designed not to expose truth, but to create political theater. Kennedy carefully returned the document to his folder. Congresswoman, 47 minutes ago, you called me corrupt. You questioned my integrity, my commitment to public service, and my fitness for office. But this email suggests that your accusation wasn't born from evidence or principle. It was born from political calculation. He leaned forward slightly, his voice taking on a tone of disappointment rather than anger. The real corruption here isn't in energy policy or campaign contributions. It's in the deliberate weaponization of serious accusations for political gain. It's in the cynical manipulation of public trust to score points in what should be a serious policy discussion. Alexandria tried to speak to defend herself, but her voice caught. The carefully prepared responses, the righteous indignation, the moral authority she had cultivated, all of it crumbled in the face of her own word, her own strategy, exposed for the calculated performance it had always been. Kennedy wasn't finished. This email was forwarded to my office by someone in your own organization who was troubled by this approach, someone who believed that public service should be about more than viral moments and fundraising opportunity. The revelation of betrayal from within her own team was almost as devastating as the exposure itself. Alexandria realized that her aggressive, confrontational style hadn't just made enemies across the aisle. It had alienated people in her own camp who believed in actual substance over political theater. Congresswoman, Kennedy concluded, his voice now carrying the weight of decades in public service, if you want to fight corruption, start by examining your own method. If you want to serve the American people, focus on policy rather than performance. And if you want to be taken seriously in these halls, remember that serious accusations require serious evidence, not social media strategy. The silence that followed was deafening. Alexandria sat frozen, unable to respond, unable to defend, unable to do anything but absorb the complete destruction of her carefully crafted political persona. The viral moment she had orchestrated had indeed gone viral, but not in the way she had intended. Chairman Morrison, clearly uncomfortable with the turn the hearing had taken, attempted to restore some semblance of normalcy. We'll take a 15-minute recess, he announced, his gavel sounding like a funeral bell for Alexandria's ambitions. As members of the committee filed out, Alexandria remained in her seat, staring at the table where her notes, now irrelevant, lay scattered. The reporters who had come hoping to capture her latest triumph instead rushed to file stories about her greatest humiliation. The cameras that were supposed to broadcast her moral authority instead captured her sitting in stunned silence, the architect of her own downfall. The 47 minutes between her accusation and Kennedy's response had felt like hours. But in those 47 minutes, Kennedy had demonstrated something rare in modern politics: the power of preparation over performance, substance over spectacle, and truth over manipulation. In the days that followed, the email would be authenticated, analyzed, and dissected by every major news organization. Alexandria's approval ratings, once buoyed by her confrontational style, began a steady decline as voters questioned whether her passionate advocacy was genuine principle or calculated performance. The progressive movement, which had seen Alexandria as its uncompromising voice, began to question whether her methods were helping or hurting their cause. If their champions could be so easily exposed as cynical operators, what did that say about the movement itself? Kennedy, meanwhile, completed his testimony with the same measured professionalism he had displayed throughout his career. He answered questions about energy policy, renewable initiatives, and regulatory frameworks with the detailed knowledge that comes from decades of experience. No theatrics, no viral moments, just competent governance. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. Alexandria had come to the hearing seeking to create a moment that would define Kennedy's legacy. Instead, she had created a moment that would define her own, not as a principled truth-teller, but as a political performer whose righteousness was as manufactured as her social media presence. As the hearing concluded and members dispersed, Kennedy packed his folders with the same methodical care he had shown throughout the day. He had known this moment would come. Not the specific details, perhaps, but the inevitable collision between performative politics and substantive governance. Alexandria's supporters would claim she had been set up, that the leak was a dirty trick designed to silence a progressive voice. But the email was authentic, the strategy real, and the performance exposed for what it had always been. The 47 minutes that ended Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's reputation as an authentic political voice began the moment she chose accusation over evidence, performance over principle, and viral moments over meaningful service. Kennedy had simply waited patiently for her to expose herself. In the unforgiving arena of national politics, authenticity remains the ultimate currency. Alexandria had traded hers for temporary applause, and Kennedy had shown the world exactly what that transaction cost. Click subscribe to catch more high-stakes political confrontations that shape our democratic landscape. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.